the meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to our January 2024 HRC meeting. I'm D. Joko, Chair. We'll start by having Bill read the Native Land Acknowledgement.
In keeping with our values of equity and inclusion, and to support those who experience marginalization, this evening's meeting will begin with a Native American land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the ancestral lands of the Nankig and Agwam peoples. Historical evidence shows that the Nankig and Agwam were peaceful in their relationship with European settlers. However, their population depleted rapidly due to smallpox and other pandemic Old World diseases unknowingly introduced by earlier European colonizers to the East Coast. To honor the Nankig and Agwam communities, along with other indigenous peoples who inhabited these lands, now known as Danvers, Mass., and who may be lost to history, let us take a moment to recognize the past, present, and future of indigenous peoples and reflect on our roles within settler colonialization. We acknowledge these ancestral grounds we have collectively gathered upon and support the resilience and strength that indigenous people have shown worldwide.
Thank you very much. Before we move on to the third item of the agenda, allow me to take a minute to say a few words about, as we are aware, we lost Susan Fletcher this past week. Susan was a truly special person. She was the first person I met at Town Hall when I first moved to Danvers, and she really took me under her wings. She was truly ahead of her time in a lot of ways and spearheaded most of the HRC work that at the time was called the Danvers Committee for Diversity. She was a friend, a mentor, and a confidant, and she will be deeply missed. State Representative, during her legislative update last week, wrote a beautiful tribute about Susan, and I would like to know if Jasmine can read that.
Yep, sure. And so even I had the pleasure of briefly meeting Susan, I think during the Pride Crosswalk unveiling, and really after hearing so much about her in the community, I think in a lot of ways in my head, I'm like, she walked so I could run. So these are the words that Sally wrote about her. Rest in peace, Susan Fletcher. I learned late Friday that my friend and longtime Town of Danvers planner, Susan Fletcher, passed away. I am saddened beyond words. Susan was an assistant town planner and served Danvers for more than 30 years, providing staff support to several committees. I had the privilege of serving on the Committee for Diversity, later renamed the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. Susan was our lifeline. She often joked that as the town staff assigned to committees subject to the open meeting law, she had several, I'm here to keep you all from going to jail. A consummate professional, Susan tended to the details. She was intelligent and precise. In a male-dominated setting, she managed to hold fast to her beliefs and maintain her position, which wasn't always easy. She arrived at every meeting with a "hi there" and her ceramic coffee cup that reads, the best man for the job is a woman. That's my kind of woman. Her job was like herding cats. She did it with good nature, kindness, wit, humor, and grace. When a Danvers elementary school was defaced with anti-Semitic graffiti in 1997, then Selectman David McKenna suggested an anti-bigotry task force. It was voted and promptly handed to Susan Fletcher. That led to the Danvers Committee for Diversity, the committee she shaped and carefully staffed for more than 2 decades. It led to the creation of the longtime signature Danvers event, the Drum Major for Justice Dinner, among other events. Susan led and managed a dedicated team of volunteers to create the Danvers MLK event for 25 years, meeting in cramped quarters at night in Town Hall to plan. It featured the Drum Major for Justice Award. Each year in the spring, as we looked at the calendar, Susan would remind us with utmost reverence, remember, we have Martin in January. Susan then created the Gay Pride Flag Raising event, and it too has become an eagerly anticipated event in our town each year. Ever the professional, Susan waved off any suggestions in later years that she was worthy of an award. Yet we knew that she was the one who made the wheels turn on every event and initiative. The Gray and Gay panel discussions, conversations with the Danvers Police Department, schools, and clergy, the Pride flag raising, Students United for Acceptance, MLK, and the menorah lighting. Each of these events helping to create awareness and break down barriers, all in an effort to create the beloved community. I'm so very grateful for all she did for Danvers and for her mentorship and friendship. Rest in peace, my friend.
Thank you. I would like us to take a minute of silence in her memory. Thank you very much. I'll now move on to the third item of the agenda, which is a citizen query. If you have any resident who has a questions, comments, concerns. Here none. Next item will be liaison updates. Mr. Voigt.
Thank you, Dee. There's nothing really to update. We had a meeting that was scheduled this week for the Danvers Interfaith Partnership that was moved and rescheduled for this coming week. And so we'll have some stakeholders joining the Interfaith Partnership for that meeting. And so we look forward to having that this coming Tuesday in the afternoon. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Lieutenant Rob.
Thank you. The Chief, Captain Sanborn, and I wanted to thank the committee yet again, in particular the subcommittee for the MLK event. We would have been there anyways, as we've attended in all the past years, but this year, I believe it was Paul sent an email, reached out to us directly and asked if we would like to set up a table and a display, so it gave us a chance to interact in a new way with the community. In addition, asking our very own Officer Vargas to be honored to be one of your speakers gave us the chance to see what a great person we already know she is, but gave you guys the chance to see her how we see her every day that I get to work with her. So she's assigned to my shift. She's been assigned to my shift since she started, and we were talking before the meeting. It also gave her colleagues on my shift a chance to come down and they have an opportunity to see her interact with the public on any number of different police calls that she may go to, but it gave them a chance to see her in a different light, talking about growing up and going to school and coming to work for us. So it was a great event all around. And we discussed this morning at our staff meeting, we were all particularly struck with one of the presenters. She shared with us her experience having been on, I don't remember if it was Zoom or Teams or one of the platforms for a educational event when other attendees of this event were using racist language, and the fact that nobody spoke up. None of the caretakers, none of the facilitators that were there. So we wanted to use the opportunity to repeat the police message that if you see something, say something. It's always it's the responsibility of those facilitators to not just pay attention, but to stop that from happening. I believe it was the DCAT team recently did a really good job. They had one of their platforms was interrupted, and they worked through the technical glitches, but they were able to stop it instead of allowing it to continue unchecked. So we also understand that there may be some times where people, if you're on one of these platforms, and you might be safe in your own home. It's safe to, even in the the little group chat. You can raise your hand and tell the facilitator this is happening. But we do understand that if you're out in public and you see this type of abuse happening, it might not be safe for somebody to stop and say something and put yourself between somebody else. So that's when you'd always want to say something, call 911. Let the police come down and deal with whatever the situation is. But we do hope that more people take the opportunity to speak out and stop those things in real time as they see them unfolding. It certainly, if it's allowed to continue, it just gets worse for those participants. Where I don't know that it would ever be a great thing, but at least if it starts and it's stopped by the people in charge, that lets them know right away it matters and people care. But just the fact that it goes on unchecked makes that horrible event for that family even worse. And I wonder how long it took her to share her story with friends or colleagues or other family members, and to us generally just now. We don't know how long ago this happened, but so I just wanted to get that message out there.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, David.
Yeah. Lieutenant, my understanding is if you call 911 on a cell phone, it goes first to the state police, and then they have to redirect it to the local department. Is that correct still?
Not anymore, sir.
Okay.
So it used to work that way. We now have enhanced 911 with GPS location. So everybody's phone should provide some of them provide precise location. It will tell you within a matter of feet. Other ones tell within a few hundred yards where they are. It varies from service provider to service provider. If they are unable to determine where you are, something's not functioning correctly with your phone. And some of the phones only have, like sometimes people only have like Wi-Fi service. They don't have cellular service. So it may be linking up to wherever a Wi-Fi router might be coming in. That might not be their exact location. If the system doesn't know what to do with it, it sends it to the state. The state will then try and ask the caller where they are and then send it to the correct department.
So it still might be better to have the local police number programmed into your phone.
Sure, they could dial 911. They could call 774-1212. Somebody's probably at home yelling at the television right now. That's the phone number that goes to a live human being in the dispatch center. If you call 1213, you get our phone tree system. But either of those numbers will work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, no. Thank you very much, Lieutenant. MLK debrief?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The superintendent of schools is here. I don't know if he has something to say about what they're doing or not, but
Sure. Thank
in case
you for the
didn't
reminder.
recognize him.
Yes, welcome, Mr. Bauer.
Certainly.
No,
I was
no.
just couldn't get over how wonderful the ceremony was on Monday.
If you don't mind just speaking to the mic for me, thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. It was a wonderful ceremony Monday. It actually, ironically, was the first Danvers ceremony I attended last year after I was appointed superintendent. And it exceeded expectations this year in terms of just being able to see the pride in the community and just to move like king. And it's really inspired me. And Dr. Joko, when you asked me to say a few words like how our district is moving like king, I really felt honored to come and speak about how our district is moving like king and acknowledging we have lots of work to do. We have lots of work to do, but we are making progress. But also to hear the other testimonies from individuals in the community and then seeing our wonderful students perform and it was just a wonderful, wonderful day and a very proud moment for the Danvers community. So we were just happy to be part of it in the collaboration and looking to continue and do more work and collaborate. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the leadership and the partnership. And that's a good segue to the next item. And I thought that's what the superintendent was here for, but I wasn't sure. Which is going to be the MLK debrief. Paul, you want to get us started?
I don't know if we want a debrief. We'll be here till
Well,
4
just
o'clock.
a big overview.
Oh, well, I thought everything went well. I mean, I've talked to some folks, and I'm going to just step aside, Mr. Chairman, for a second. when you were talking about Susan Fletcher, okay?
Yes.
Susan Fletcher moved like king. And I think everybody that worked with her knows that. And I just wanted to put that out. So if you're ever thinking about what she did, she was just outstanding. And as you mentioned, the first person you met. So I just wanted to bring that out. Talk about when Karen came up with that idea of moving like king, it couldn't have been more appropriate for Susan Fletcher. Now, moving on, again, I said I thought everything went well. From my perspective, I had to step aside for a little bit during the event. But I came back, and I want to thank the subcommittee, yourself and Karen and Bill and Johan and what's her name? They're up there. Jasmine. I always come up. I can only remember 3 or 4 things, and then I just got to go back. I need help, okay? But it was outstanding. I want Karen to talk about, if I can, Karen, you would talk about some of the things that we just had a few wrinkles this year, and I think a lot of it had to do with Karen's input, and I think she screened a lot of the speakers, and everything went really well. So I want to acknowledge that. But we did have a subcommittee that I don't know how many times we met, a dozen at least, okay? And in the end, we probably needed one more meeting, which we did by phone, that went on for exactly for me, 1 hour and 53 minutes until a car crashed in front of my house and turned over, and I had to put the phone down and go out and see what was going on. So we want to meet. I want to get the subcommittee together right at the end just for a second, if we can set a date maybe and maybe go back to our favorite place and have a debrief meeting, all right? Now, another thing is, right at the end, we ended up getting a $250 donation to our event from Kiwanis, and I wanted to mention them because we just didn't have the time to do anything other than thank them, really, and I did through email. And now I'd like anybody on the committee, the subcommittee first, and anybody on the committee, if they please, we're always open to any suggestions at this point, but if Bill has anything to say, the chairman, please, Karen, let us know what you're thinking.
The floor is yours, Karen.
Well, I just would like to convey on behalf of our 5 Move Like King speakers, in addition to Officer Vargas, we also had Godwin Nana, who's a journalist, and Maria Joseph, who's a parent of a high school student. That's who I think we're referring to, Lieutenant Sullivan. We also had Alexis Smith Akafeko, and we also had Jody Mailer. And what was really striking was that they all stepped up when they were invited to take part. But it was clear as they were preparing, it was work for them. They were taking, they were doing something new. Not only were we doing something new as a committee and as a town, but as individuals, as residents, they were doing something new. And so I think it was really tremendous that platform could be there for them, and they felt proud. And I think we are all working, this committee, the school, under your leadership, Superintendent Bauer, and others, right? We're working to really foster a community where people can feel safe to speak up and to share their stories. And so that felt really good. And they felt, I had responses from all of them afterwards, just how much it meant to them to be able to take part. So I think that's just something to name and to not to undervalue what that means. It was also a joy for me to work with Karen Kilsey, who I think will always be a part of the Maple Street community, though she's got to hang her hat down in Boston these days. But one invitation, it was an idea that Jasmine had. We had one Zoom, and by the time we connected again, she had gone above and beyond what we had initially talked about, and that was really delightful. And Reverend Douglas's colleague, Reverend Pam, came and supported, and my husband was on that table, and a couple of other well-known community members were also helping out there. That was great. And then it was wonderful to work with the school. Alex stepped up again with the music as always. And we also were working with Jeff Surratt for the banner idea, which was somewhat of a new piece, and that is still in progress. And that banner we'll get to see more of in the coming weeks and months. So, I think this whole artistic piece and the idea of moving like King and having the tabling, which Paul referenced, engaged the community in a way that felt fresh and accessible. And I think that that's what we continue to do and we'll be doing in February with our next event. So happy to share that.
Thank you very much. David, any comments?
I thought it was a great program, as usual. Every year, you folks seem to find a way to make it a little better. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Donna?
I don't really have any comments that haven't been said. I thought it was wonderful. There seemed to be more people there this year, which I was really happy to see. It's a great event. Thank you, subcommittee.
Thank you. Kristen?
The event was great while I was there. I appreciate the kind words that Dee said to me and on behalf of the committee, which I can talk about later. I don't want to use this time now. But I think it's always a big hit when my kids are really excited and they're talking about it afterwards. That's usually a good sign. The art was huge. Very fun to interact, and the little rocks. My daughter kept wanting to put them in her pockets and bring them home. Just all around, it was really, really well done, and I think it's great for all ages, especially the little ones.
Thank you.
I, of course, went back and watched because I had to see what I missed out on. But I first wanted to just, I feel a lot of pride for the level of representation that was present, just from the perspective of someone who watched the video. When I think about how many times I've been told in this community we have no diversity here, and then I look at that video and just the variety beyond race that was represented, even in the people introducing groups, and the shout out to Kristen and everyone who came up to the microphone, showing that diversity to our greater community has been something I have seen as part of my role since I started. So to see that happening and moving on its own, even independent of my presence, I love that. I'm also really excited to see the momentum from year to year and seeing how we are, especially this committee in particular, as we're putting together subcommittees and strengthening our relationships in the community, the ways that we are starting to properly distribute this work. And we still have some ways to go, but to properly distribute this work so we are expanding our own capacity to do these events, because they are so much labor. So I'm really excited to see there were some folks stepping up. There were people where we could entrust to do things. Just the people we sent to Karen, and if one phone call later and they're driving and they're off and running, I mean, it must have been your magic, I don't know. But I was really, really proud of that, and I definitely found myself even, it was supposed to just be on in the background while I was answering emails, but I was transfixed and at times a little choked up. Even just to see Agnes, what an incredible contribution just as a person that she is to our community, and powerful Black woman in our community. Seeing the same from Rosalba. When I first started, there weren't other women of color really on my radar. So to see them standing up in our community and speaking out, and to no longer feel like I'm the only, even through the changes on this committee, feels really good.
Thank you. Sherpa?
I love that you did something new this year than the way things have always been done. It felt very intentional, and that we amplified not just Black and brown voices in the community, but other voices that may not necessarily be heard. I think that was wonderful, and I think we're going in just a fantastic direction. I love how intentional it was. That was just fantastic, so great job to the subcommittee. And I also wanted to say that with our HRIC table, it was such a fantastic idea to have a laptop there. so we could have people sign up on the community engagement form so we get volunteers. And I think that's something we could do at every event. That was a fantastic idea. So thank you for doing that and having that there. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Bill,
Two things.
you want to just speak to the microphone, please?
Yes. I think a lot of thanks goes to Mary Wormers because she did a lot of the work of setting things up ahead of time, and she needs to be told that too. One of the things I'm disappointed that we didn't do was the winning peace poster for our district. It did not get back to us, and I don't know where it is, but anyway, that would have been nice to have displayed with the Lions peace posters.
So do we know where it is?
No, other than it went on to, and it did not win state.
Oh, okay. So are they
So
going
it
to
should
send
have
it
been
back?
back to us in time for our display, but I got an email months ago with somebody saying that, they want to present it come to the Lions Club and meeting, and I said, we really need to hear it before Martin Luther King Day, and that didn't happen.
Jorge?
I really can't add anything. I can only reiterate that it was really great, and the new things that we tried seemed to really hit the mark, and it'd be great to see those continuing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to next year already.
We also started at 3 instead of 4 this year, and we added quite a few more things happening then.
That's good. Pastor Doc?
The only thing I wanted to reiterate is that I just love the individual voices, hearing individual stories and people's personal stories. I think just really brought such a touch to the whole evening instead of just that one keynote speaker. And so I think that brought such value.
Thank you. Newton and Rob? I know you spoke of it a little bit earlier, but I want to give everyone the chance to.
Sure. Thank you. I guess maybe the only thing to add is this subcommittee's really challenged the rest of us. Everything else going forward.
Yes, Paul?
Thank you, Rob. Karen's already taken notes, believe me. But I want to echo what Bill said about Mary Wormers and Adam and Alex Grover, and thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for all you do. Yeah.
Yes, and
Because this event wouldn't go the way it does without the schools, believe me, and I think we all know that. And so it's just, we adjust, we finesse it every year, we think, but then things change, and you guys are always there. You really are, and I really appreciate it. I'm sure the town does too.
I wonder if we actually extend an invitation to Mary to join us for our debrief breakfast.
Yes.
I think that would be really fun, and love on her. Yeah.
I know Bill's buying too, by the way.
I was going to say, I hope someone's buying Mary breakfast.
yes, I mean, it was a great event. I mean, I'm not going to repeat what everyone said, and kudos to the food services as well. I mean, the food was a hit again this year. DPW with the setup. At some point, we needed more chairs, and they were right on top of it. And just the artwork. I mean, kudos to those students. It's like every year, the level of creativity is just outstanding. And they do it very intentionally, like you said. It was their way to express what Dr. King means to them. And when you were reading some of those messages, it was very touching. I think I'm very optimistic as to where we're going as a town. And if we put our faith in these kids, we can't go wrong. So the student speakers were forceful and very, very focused into the mission and really wanted to leave a legacy, which is what are other people going to do when they are not there. And that was very powerful. They are not doing this for them. They're doing it for the younger kids. They were 2 seniors that are keenly focused in working with the younger kids and going back to the middle school. so that by the time they get to high school, they have a better learning environment. So that was very powerful. So thank you all, and thank you, Mr. Bauer, for the partnership. Don't know if there's anything else you want to add, but
No, just thank you. Happy to do it.
thank you. I will now move on to the next item of the agenda, which is a DEI report out. Dashmin?
Sure. So I guess I'll start kind of where you left off. The two students who spoke at MLK, Kevin and Chuba, are part of Next Gen, and I believe I mentioned in our last meeting that they are interested in planning some kinds of race forum or town hall. They want to have a community conversation about race, essentially, and they want to focus on peer-to-peer, but they do want adults listening, and I think we should listen. So I'm hoping to get them at our next committee meeting, if they're not already up and running with it by the time we meet again, just so that they can come in and tell you a little bit themselves about what they're trying to do. But I'm looking forward to that and that partnership, because you heard them speak, they're on it. I'm like, just turn it over to them. We can all retire, myself included. So I'm excited for that. The second bit is our strategic plan. So remember, we're actually I believe at this point nearing the end of the town strategic plan process, and this has been like a year in the making. They're just wrapping up they have 2 open surveys right now asking for community feedback, specifically about to help prioritize the action items and to look at the draft vision and goals. So that's been up for the last couple of weeks, and I believe that should be open through the end of this week. So if you have any time in the next 24 to 48 hours to go on the Danvers strategic plan website to just lend some thoughts, help them prioritize and shape the visions and goals, I think that's one way to really use your expertise in the area of DEI to really leverage that on a town-wide scale as they're trying to think about where we need to move. And help maintain our own momentum. So just a plug for that. The last bit is I already was reached out to by our friend and partner Lauren from Heathmere, and she is interested in bringing Race Amity back this year, and I believe she wants to call it the Race Amity Multicultural Festival. It's early, but we would be looking at the Saturday, July 13th. So stay tuned in the next meeting probably to start creating a planning team for that. That would be fantastic.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions, comments? I like the conversation about race peace that our students want to do. I was listening to someone speak, and they said, diversity is not a problem to manage. It is a value to cherish, just like honesty, integrity, and things like that. So the more we talk about these things, the more we have that paradigm shift as to this is not, because I can just picture some people saying, why do we have to talk about this? It's not a problem. Why do we want to create a problem? Well, this is a value that we have to cherish, and the more we talk about it, the better. So just wanted to throw it out there. So kudos to them, and I'm sure this committee will be willing to participate in any way and support them. Thank you. Next item is the Black History Month celebration. Johan is not here. She had a last-minute family emergency. But the event is moving forward. The subcommittee, and keep me honest here, Shilpa, if I miss something. The event is going to be on February 10, 2024, from 5 to 8 at the Senior Center. The planning subcommittee is meeting weekly every Wednesday. I was at the select board meeting on Tuesday, and we got unanimous consent for our wine and beer license. for that day. Um, so we're good with that. I don't know if there's anything else that I need to add, Shilpa.
No? Everything's on track. Jasmine, do you have something to add?
Yes. So this event is open to all. It will be featuring an Afrobeats dance tutorial from 6 to 7. Bill, special request for your grandson to join me on the dance floor. And they do have an Eventbrite for this event. It's free to register, but just to keep count because they are ordering food if you're familiar with Eventbrite. It's, again, Danvers Black History Month event, Black Excellence. It's up there as well. So, yes, confirmed Afrobeats dance tutorial as a hook, complimentary food and drinks.
And there'll be a diverse type of food, right? The menu is very rich. So please come on down, mark your calendar. Good food, February 10, 5 to 8. And we've made sure we put it at that time so people don't have dinner before they come. Yes,
And
Karen.
can I just ask, Shilpa, what time in terms of setup, when might you begin that and how could, be helpful?
I don't have those details.
Okay.
Johan would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. We'll get that out. Perfect.
Thank you. Next item, do we have any update from the Massachusetts Human Rights Commission?
Yes, we do. Just a couple of things that I wanted to highlight and share out. One was Virginia Benzan, who's on the commission. She is the Director of Racial Justice Advocacy for the Massachusetts Law Reform Institute, and she sends out a racial justice newsletter. So if we ever want anything that we want to highlight, for example, our Black Excellence Party, we can send it to her, and she will put it in the newsletter and send it to other people on the commission from other towns. The second thing was Arlington had done something really interesting. They were doing a community talk about the influx of migrants and how they are being reintegrated into the community. So that's something if we want to think about doing, especially if that we have the EA families and for other immigrant families also in our town, and knowing how sometimes the community responds to new people in our community. This might be something we want to think about doing and having a conversation about. The other thing was the Boston Human Rights Commission. Of course, they would be larger being in Boston, being a large city. They deal with issues of discrimination, housing, and other things, but what they do is try to recommend policy to the mayor. And I don't know if some point that's where we can go, where we can recommend policy to our local government, because we all know if we really want change, then policy is where the big change comes from. So again, something for us to think about. They also work with interns from the local schools. They work with the UMass Boston, and the students do research on various things like targeted violence in Boston. Hate crimes in Boston have skyrocketed because there's no mandatory reporting, and the police do not have to record it, so data is not inclusive or conclusive. So again, I don't know if we want to tap into students from our colleges around our towns to see if we can get kids to do some research for us so we have data. That might be something to think about as well. So those were just a couple of things that I wanted to share from the commission meeting.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Just one quick thing.
I apologize. My boss was texting me as you were, so I missed part of it. Who was not reporting hate crimes? Boston police?
Yeah, so that was what they mentioned in the report. So there's no mandatory reporting, apparently. I don't know how true that is. That possibly can be double checked. But it says the police did not have to record it, so the data is not inclusive or conclusive. I would have to verify that, but that was in the report.
Okay. I'll double check. I believe
Yeah.
in Massachusetts it is required. I believe NIBRS, which is the federal reporting system, also requires it. I know there have been some problems with colleges and universities
Okay.
not being municipal entities. But at our last Civil Rights Symposium, on the state level, um, the crime analysis unit came in and presented who was giving statistics and from where. So like
Okay.
we're actually starting to do ours for last year to send our statistics in from Danvers.
Excuse me.
So it would be surprising to hear Boston wasn't. And they were, when I went to my first training with them back in the 90s, the crime community disorder unit, I believe,
Okay.
was in charge of that, but I can get some information for you on who is reporting what
Yeah.
and how and what is required, but we do report, and I believe it is a requirement for the municipalities to report.
Awesome. Thank you. That would be helpful.
Thank you. And just to also clarify on the policy front, I mean, that's part of what our charge
Yeah.
is to bring those policies change that we seek
Yeah.
forward to the select board or the town manager. So if there's ever anything that we think we can draft or work, we've done it in the past in a lot of issues. That's what we are tasked to do. That's part of what we are tasked to do.
Which is why I think data is important for us to have.
Oh,
we
yeah,
can
definitely.
compile those reports. And I know
Definitely.
Jasmine probably shared at the last meeting, I think it was Medford or Melrose that is doing a lot of research into that. So it would take a while to compile a team. We need people who are good with statistics
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. So that would take a while to put together. But if we can move in that direction, that would be fantastic.
Thank you very much. Next item is going to be update on member emeritus. Just for, if you recall, we talked about this a while back, and we had voted to bring this to the select board for consideration. I was there with Jorge, Karen, Johan. We attended the select board meeting on Tuesday, and that also was very well received, and it did pass unanimously. So they approved the concept of having member emeritus status for this committee. And what that will mean is these members will be non-voting positions that recognize longevity and or impact of individual members during their term. Members may express intent to serve in this capacity upon reappointment, or in the event they must relieve themselves from their position as a voting member. So the way it's going to work is if a member is up for reappointment and they feel like they don't have a lot of time or they can't really attend most meetings, they can still stay member and they can seek to be a member emeritus. And we will bring that to the select board. So it will still be a select board appointment with the recommendation of the chair. So that way they will stay as members, but they won't have to come to every meeting. They won't have to do all the subcommittees and things like that. And the idea was just to really keep that institutional knowledge in the committee. And also allow people to, and I personally feel it's a good way to really recognize seniority and great impact of some members. Because this is hard work, you know. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of thought, and I think that if someone has been serving for a long time or have had great impact, this is a way for the town to not just say thanks, but thanks, because we need that guidance, we need those advice. Any questions on that?
Dee, I know that it is now in the ball is in the select board's court. Do you have a sense of timing? Obviously, they've got to have some conversations about, it was talking about duration, how long, and there were a number of factors. So do you have a sense of timing of when they might be kind of completing that and this new role can go into process?
My understanding was it was approved. There's nothing else that needed to happen except what they said was they did approve the concept and they are ready. When and if we were to present them with a possible member or a candidate, then they will discuss how long they want that member to
Okay.
serve in that capacity for. Will that be a lifetime appointment? Or would they give it 5 years in case they still show interest? So, but the member emeritus is already approved as of now.
Okay. It's just a question of the terms. So
That's
what
correct.
I'm
So the
hearing
only
is that the
question-
terms will be determined once they need to actually
Exactly.
put the terms into place.
That is correct. So they decided that instead of speculating, do we make this a lifetime appointment or a term appointment and reappointment? When and if we brought a member forward, then they will make that decision at that time.
Okay.
So that was my understanding. Yes.
Do you have somebody in mind, or is this
No.
this is just going forward?
This is just going forward, and this is, I mean, if you recall, Paul, before it was like you're on the committee until you're not anymore because you stop showing up, right? So what we've really been trying to do is to really give structure to the committee, because it's a very, I mean, we figure in 2019, it's a very important committee.
Yeah.
And we want to have that well structured, and have it in the town charter or bylaw, I don't know what it's called. What are the different status of the members of the committee?
Yeah, I don't, David could probably back me up on this maybe a little bit, but I can remember when I first came on, you know, there'd always be movement on the committee and no one would know what happened to a member.
Exactly.
And there would be no formal, I'm not so sure how the appointments were made at the time, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's gotten more structured, which is good. But I believe what you're talking about, and I fully agree, is and there comes a time maybe when someone wants to get off because of a lot of reasons. But they still have, he or she will have something to offer to the committee and not yet be responsible to be on every single other thing, because it just gets too much for them for whatever. And I could think of a few folks in this room right now that I think I'd like to stay on the committee. But that's not what's going to happen, all right? But anyway, that's the kind of thing we value. So it just, we don't want folks to sort of just maybe retire is not the right word, but not disappear. We certainly don't want that because that doesn't help the committee. But if we can keep folks involved, we're also expanding, not necessarily the committee, the voting committee. We're expanding by keeping those folks involved. We're expanding the interest in the town. And I think it's a very good idea. I fully support it.
Yeah, and just to clarify, this is not to mean that, well, maybe I just want to be there half of the time. I don't feel like doing all the work. Can you just make me emeritus? This is not what this is. This is, in my opinion, I'll call it elite. I mean, these are members. We are really having them as emeritus, and I like to use the high ed system here because either their longevity or their impact to the committee.
Right.
And that's something we can decide. You know, after we decide that, we can bring the name forward to the select board.
That's ultimately going to be a committee choice.
That's correct.
Yes.
Where a committee choice for the select board to make the appointment,
Correct.
yes.
I just also wanted to note, thinking about structure and timeline, to Paul's point, the reason why we are attempting to put these structures in place, it's a matter of sustainability as well as equity. I'm sure it's not a secret that the demographics of members of committees and boards is not reflective of the demographics of the broader community, especially as we are diversifying in demographics. So this is, again, to honor wisdom and tradition that is part of these committees, and also create those intentional succession plans and sustainability, because even when I started, there were a lot of things that were just lost in the trading of hands with this committee, and we did, in some cases, it almost felt like we lost some valuable history and information. And to that point, I also wanted to point out that, because anyone at any time, right, theoretically can can choose to step back from the committee. You don't have to wait for your term to be up. But we, as of last year, we were trying to kind of get on a schedule, which I believe we had announced who was up for like reappointments around March or so, and then we had transitioned people into the roles before the end of the fiscal year. And I do think if we can repeat that this year to start putting that into practice, it would be helpful. And as it stands right now, there are like 5 people up for reappointment, including, and then like chair and vice chair are also gonna have to be reappointed. So those are just things I'm saying to put on your radars, to start thinking about who you're seeing in your circles that we wanna call in, and who, and if you yourself are thinking about stepping into I guess a vice chair position or even a chair, but just being mindful of the options that you have and flexibility as participants. You're never locked in to where you are now, and I feel like it's important to reiterate that and absolve you of any pressure you might be carrying with that.
Thank you. And do you have the list of the 5 that are coming up? And I think the appointment will be at some point in June, so we can start the fiscal year
I believe,
in July. Yes.
Yep. So Dutrichet, Kristen, Dr. Desmond, and then Johan and Shilpa, who were completing other terms, are the 5 who are up this year. And then next year will be Bill, Donna, David, and Paul.
Perfect.
3-year terms, correct?
Yes. Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments about the emeritus status?
Are you telling me after all this time, all I had to do was stop showing up? You're not getting rid of me that easy, don't worry.
You got it, Dave. You're not going anywhere, David. I have your phone number and I know where you live. I'll find you. You know that. Okay. Next item on the agenda will be new business.
Yeah, I had just wanted to follow up on my email that I sent out and thank you everyone for the responses. You know, it's such mixed emotions that I share. I will be stepping back from the committee. I'm excited because in my full-time career, I received a promotion which requires extra work that I'm uncomfortable committing to with my other responsibilities I have right now. And then as many of you know, my family, we own a business here in town, and I'm taking on more responsibilities for that as well. And having 3 little ones, ages 6 and under, I need to make sure I don't completely lose my mind. So I also need to plan some time for myself. So with that, I made the really hard decision to step back, and really I felt so worried about disappointing everyone because I care so much about this committee. But I also know how much interest there is, and I think there's a lot of people in our community that want to do this work, and I don't want to hold tight on this seat when I think other people could have an impact. So I'm really sad this will be my last meeting, but you can't get rid of me. I will be at all events. I'm still helping to finish the Black Excellence event, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm just not going to be a voting member. I'll just pop around, and that will be that. So thank you everyone for the last several years, and yeah, we'll continue as we will.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, Kristen. And I'll probably say what I said on Monday again.
And I am so sorry. So I went to the MLK event with my 2 little girls, and my 4-year-old decided it was time to leave after I had committed to Dee that I was going to stick around. And then I got a person show up at my door around 7 p.m. or so and said, "Where'd you go?" And so I was very, very embarrassed that I had to leave. And I did watch the replay, and I just thank you for the kind words, and I'm so sorry that I had to step away.
You don't have to be sorry because I'll say it again in your face. You're not going anywhere. Full disclosure, I mean, Kristen have shared this with me a few months back. I tried to drag my feet and keep her going, and she undercut me and emailed the whole committee because she was expecting me to say this last month, and I did not. So she decided to say it herself. But yeah, this is your last meeting, not only as a vice chair, but a member of HRC. As you know, you're stepping away to continue to move like King in other ways. Not only for this committee, but for the community at large. So thanks for being such a great colleague. I really enjoy your friendship and truly enjoy working with you throughout this year as vice chair. I could not have done this work without your assistance. Your constant positive attitude and keeping me in check and making sure I get things done on time did not go unnoticed. So I hope you leave this committee knowing that you've made a positive impact in my life personally, as a person, as a leader, but also you've made a great impact on this committee and on the town. As a matter of fact, I was just thinking about what I could say, and I said, wow, how long has, I remember the first time Kristen joined the Zoom call as a committee member. And from that time on, she just took the horse by the horns. And, and not only with your leadership, we've continued to the existing programmings, like the MLK, the menorah lighting, the Pride event, but we've done a lot of new ones, right? And I was thinking, I'm like, wow, with your leadership, we've had the first history of anti-Semitism film screening with the Lappin Foundation. We've had the first Joan Trump Power visit. We had the first Race Amity Day in partnership with Kidmia. We had the first Juneteenth. We had the first Massachusetts Human Rights Commission Summit, which this year was the theme Bending the Arc of Health Equity. We had the first Strategic Plan Focus Group. We had the first Latinx Heritage Month celebration, which we call Celebration. We had the first ice cream social with our EA families, first welcoming dinner, first living room conversation, and it was the biggest fundraising year that we've had as a committee. That's a lot. I think that deserves a round of applause. So thank you. You'll be missed, but I'm sure you're on to do great more things, so thank you.
I think Susan was right. The best man for a job is a woman. Especially this one.
That's right. Any other new business? Here, none? Okay, perfect. So I will need
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion carried. Thank you. Good night, Danvers.